Have you ever played a game to 100% completion? Have you ever been embarrassed, change the difficulty setting in one way or the other, feeling worried how others may view? Have you ever spent countless hours playing it on a game on hard mode, only to think back and reflect and say, why am I doing this in the first place? Have you ever played a game multiple times through just to get the true ending of something or get all the completions or something you may have missed? Hi, I'm Kurosh. I'm your host for the show, and today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about a little bit of a conversation topic of mine that's sitting on my mind and some of the folks I've talked to, and we're going to get into it. But typically what you would see from me is I talk about game reviews, conversations in various natures, largely focused on indie games, but also just the gaming space as a whole. So let's get into it. The real question I want to draw today is, how do you choose to play games? Like what? And that's such a broad question, right? You think about how you choose to play games. You think about the difficulty. You think about the platform. You think about the manner in which you're approaching the completion, the side story, the main quest, multiple playthroughs. I kind of want to talk about all of this and what my experiences have been and what that kind of comes from it. I think it's worth asking, worth bringing up, and worth sharing some of my own experiences. And maybe if you have a moment to share some of your own as well. I think recently this came up for me because I was playing through Sea of Stars, and I don't want to spoil that game because I highly recommend it. Please check out my review as well. But in Sea of Stars, it was a game made by Sabotage Studios, and one of the things they do, as an RPG does, is they provide like a main quest line and various side. Sometimes those side quests are more pertinent. Sometimes they're a little bit more of like, ancillary, and you're like, oh, why do I even need to do this? You get like a bonus thing or something. But the reason this one came up for me was because I got to the end of the game, and again, without spoiling, I finished it. I had an ending was presented to me, of which felt off, of which felt there's more here. There's something I missed, or there's something that doesn't feel like it's finished. Lo and behold, credits roll, game continues and everything. And as I'm going through it, it then, does kind of like an after credits thing where it kind of presents something. And that opened the door, and it explains that, hey, go back into the save right before the final stuff, and there's an opportunity to, if you so choose, do different things. And I thought that was an interesting thing in that it wasn't necessarily upfront about it. It was saying, here's, play the game, just go and experience it. And I felt kind of, I started questioning if I felt actually robbed of like whatever the true ending was supposed to be, because as I looked into it, at that point I had played through the game. I was kind of curious what that would result in. I didn't want to invest the time in the various side quests I didn't really pursue. And I started questioning, and I saw what it offered, and I said, what? Like it was substantial. It was something I was really interested in pursuing. I started to wonder if I even should go through it, or should I just look it up? That kind of just probed the question, like, why? Like, would I play through this again? Would I go through these things? And I wonder how others would do it. I bounced some, so I told one of my other friends about it who wasn't aware, because he had stopped earlier in the game. And we were talking a little bit about like, oh, would I do that? Would I not? Would I just look it up? I'm like, it's just started to beg the question of me of like, how do people play games? Do they call it done after they do their playthrough, or do they reach a certain point and say, I got what I wanted out of this game? And why? Like, is there a right way to play it? And how do you play it? And so like, this is one of those instances where I wasn't exactly sure how I even felt about it. Of like, what, should I be upset? Should I be happy that they didn't end it there, that they did offer that side thing? Yeah, just knowing that it was something that's so ingrained in the story was one of those situations where I wasn't quite sure whether I felt like this was taking away from the initial experience due to how many people typically play a game. They usually do start to finish, play through, and end. And only if there's extra incentive do they go back and... But then I started to just see more and more of like, oh, people play in various ways. They don't even finish games sometimes. They do this, they do that. They just play side quests till the endless days go by, and some games don't even have like an end. So how do you play those games? And I just thought it would be worth bringing up and talking about briefly, because that was one of my experiences that it really gave me a little bit of a loop of like, what is the intention? How do I feel about it? How do I want to go about it? How have others gone about it? But yeah, like I said, it brings up the idea of difficulty as well. And I kind of want to just hit on a few of these and see just, yeah, where you think of it. But there's the difficulty question where some folks feel like, oh, if it's not a true playthrough unless you do it on a set, whether it be the normal or higher difficulty, or you haven't really, like, you get the folks that are very into the old, I have to play this on the hardest mode, and that's the only way I can truly say I've beaten the game. And I find that interesting because it's a self-inflicted kind of like requirement, but then it's expected. Sometimes that comes up in conversations where it's expected of others. They outwardly project that expectation. And I think that's odd because at the same time, part of my philosophy, I change the difficulty all the time, easier or harder. I typically nowadays lean towards easier, but I think it's interesting because my perspective on it has been some of these games, for instance, like there's Jedi Fallen Order, or recently I did Warhammer Chaos Gate, or I'm right now doing Death Stranding. And I think more so Chaos Gate and Jedi makes sense here, but you're supposed to be these characters that are so powerful. Like the world recognizes you as this super powerful character, creature, or unit, or whatever. And so playing on the easy difficulty actually, to me, matches that. It's like how the game would view me and how I'm playing. I'm just making Swiss cheese out of people left and right. And it's gratifying, it's powerful. Granted, it's also, I see the other side of it where then it becomes easy and it's like, well, some people will say, well, I want my money's worth. I want a challenge. I want to face a combat. And I think that's where you get various perspectives on it. And no, there's no right answer here. It's more of like, how do you view it? How do you share it? And I think that's the point I'm trying to make with a lot of what I'm sharing here is there are so many ways to play games, whether it be the difficulties or the way in which you approach the game itself, completing it, what is completing it, and so on and so forth. And I think it's an interesting thing that we all, as in the community of gaming, have talked about or just expected of one another and view it and share our views with each other. I think we could do better in the sense of how we communicate with each other about it and the judgments we make of each other. But I think largely the emphasis here again is there are more than one way to play a game, and whether it be platforms as well, but I didn't even get into that really, but I just wanted to share that. And I'm also very just curious how you, the viewer, play games and what rules or parameters you set for yourself. Please let me know. I'd love to hear. And I just kind of want to have a little topic, the conversation I want to bring up. So thank you for joining me today for this and my little rambling stories of Sea of Stars. I'm very curious too, how have those of you that have played Sea of Stars, how have you gone about finishing and playing through that game? So anyway, thank you again for joining me. Appreciate it. You have a good time. I hope this has been an interesting video. I'd love to hear back from you. Talk to you guys later. Bye.